friends, welcome back to Farm Girl Diaries. Today is an exciting day because we're making a new sourdough bread. It's one I've never made before, but we're going to try to make, at least, a light and fluffy brioche. So I'm using my favorite book, Sourdough, Artisan Sourdough Made Simple. So we're going to try to get this started. This is going to be a 2-day bread. It is 1:30 right now, and you need to let it go for a couple of hours, and then you actually chill it overnight. So I'm getting it started now, so you can kind of use my timeline. I'll give the times that I do everything, so you can kind of see how it works for me. Hopefully we're successful. So you need to use your, well, you don't need to, but it recommends that you use your stand mixer to incorporate the dough and make the dough, because that brings in a lot of needed air. Brioche is a really fluffy, airy bread, and by using the stand mixer, it should bring in a lot more air than I could bring in if I was just kneading it by hand. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I have my bowl on my scale, and we're going to start with our flour. It calls for 500 grams of flour. To the flour, I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt, or 9 grams of salt. I need a new scale. My scale, which I just got, is not light enough. Huh? There's actually doing it. That's surprising. It normally doesn't. It normally doesn't measure the small increments of my salt, but that time it seemed to. Now, 50 grams of sugar. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to plug my stand mixer in, and I have the paddle attachment on it, and it's on. So while this is going, I'm going to add, what am I going to add? 120 grams of warm milk. So I have that already measured and warmed up. So I'm going to add that in here. Use that same bowl. I have my fluffy Stanley here. I fed him last night. We need 250 grams of Stanley. And that actually took almost my whole starter. So I'm going to leave him out. I normally would put him right in the fridge, but I actually just used, where do I go? I just used almost all of him. So rather than put him directly in the fridge, I'm going to feed him again, and then I'll put him in the fridge. So we'll add in and then we need, how many eggs? 3 large eggs, lightly beaten. How much butter? Now, if you are brand new to sourdough, this is what I use to measure out my sourdough starter. If you let sourdough starter dry, it becomes a cement. And I joke, except I'm not really joking, that I could totally build a house with sourdough cement. I think it'd be a worthy experiment. So I'm just letting, oops, now we're working hard. So we have a dough that has formed. It's not a very cohesive dough, but it's a wet dough. All of my flour is absorbed. So now I'm just going to kind of get this batter for the paddle cleaned off. And I'm going to let this rest for 15 to 30 minutes. I'm going to be honest. I desperately need to go to the grocery store. I have not done it. It's on my list to do this week. Just haven't done it yet. And I'm completely out of butter. And I started this project before I realized I was completely out of butter. And brioche is a buttery bread. You use butter. I don't have butter at all in this house. So the next step calls for you to add butter. I don't have butter. So I'm going to use oil. And if this is a failure, it's because I used oil instead of butter. But I already went to the store once this morning and didn't realize that I was this low on butter. So I'm not going back. So we're going to try it with oil. We're going to be resourceful. And if it fails, it failed because it's the butter. It's been about 20 minutes that I've had this rested, and I need to get to other projects. So I'm just going to go ahead and get moving along. So now we need to add the butter. I don't have butter, so we're adding just avocado oil, and it calls for 8 tablespoons of butter or 113 grams. So I'm just going to use 113 grams of avocado oil and hope it is okay. I don't like that. So you want to add your butter 1 cube at a time until it's fully combined, and then let it beat until the dough is shiny and smooth. And that said it takes about 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to let it go for a little bit, and then I'm going to transfer it. I greased this bowl. I'm going to transfer it to this bowl, and it's going to rise for 5 to 8 hours or until it doubles in size. And the recipe says it will not come together. It will not come together into a ball. So we're not trying to get it to be a ball. Now you can see the dough has not come together into a ball. And the recipe said it would. It wouldn't come together into a ball. So I'm just going to get it into my buttered / greased dish and then cover it and let it rise. Here we go. Now I'm going to cover this and let it rise for 5 to 8 hours until it doubles in size. And then I'm going to put it in the fridge, and it's going to chill overnight in the fridge. So the next time we'll be back to work with this spread is tomorrow morning after it's doubled and chilled, assuming nothing goes wrong. Hey friends, it is the next day. It's actually just shy of 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. So I put this, our beautiful dough, look at our dough, so pretty. I put this in the fridge last night before I went to bed, and then I actually had run-ins to do this morning, and I didn't want to risk it getting overproofed when we do our second proof, so I just left it in the fridge this whole time. And now we're going to get it out and shape it, and then it's going to do its final proof. Okay, so there's 2 different ways you can do a brioche. You can either do a traditional sandwich loaf where we make this into a log, tuck the ends over, and put it into our grease or buttered loaf pan. I'm going to try to do it in the typical brioche way, or I guess the fancy brioche way where you do it in 4 different sections. So to do that, we're going to shape this first into a loaf. And you want a very floured surface. And then, okay, I think that's good. Cut it into 4 pieces. Try to get 4 equal pieces. I'm really bad at that. I should be using my scale to weigh it out, but we got this, right? Okay. And then you want to roll it. It said roll it into a ball. So I have it rolled into a ball, so I'm going to put it in my pan. So I'm just going to do that with all of them. Roll it into a nice ball. Tuck in the seams under the ball. I have it really pretty. Definitely 2 different sizes here. And that actually looks really cool, doesn't it? Definitely some different sizes going on, but I think that looks really cool. And I actually didn't need as much flour as I thought I would need. It wasn't very sticky. Okay, so now we're going to cover it again with a damp cloth and we're going to let it rise. The book says anywhere between 1 to 2 hours or until it's risen about an inch over this pie plate. It is a bit cooler here today, so we're going to start it out just on the counter. But if I see that it's either taking too long or not rising fast enough, I'll go ahead and put it on my heat mat. But I'm really excited. That looks really great, and you can kind of already tell, I feel like they look super airy. I think this is going to be a success. I think it's going to be a success. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cover this guy. And we'll be back in 1 to 2 hours. Okay, to be honest, I completely forgot about my bread. It is 7:50 p.m. and I'm just getting ready to put this puppy in the oven. So it didn't rise up above the lip. Well, I guess it's starting to. If I left it go, it probably would. I put it on the heat mat about an hour ago, which I think it should have been on the heat mat this whole time. But look how bubbly it is. So I guess it's it's probably just about close enough. So we're going to go ahead and throw it in the oven because it's getting late and I need to get this bread baked. But for the record, it's 7:30 at night, so it's been doing this second proof since 12:30 this afternoon. So far this seems to be a really flexible bread. So I'm going to bake it at 400 degrees for 40 to 45 minutes. I actually just forgot I wanted to do an egg wash on here. So I did an egg wash and now I'm going to put it in the oven for 40 to 45 minutes at 400 degrees. Okay, I will bring you guys along tomorrow. But the lighting in my kitchen is terrible at nighttime. But look how pretty that bread is. Oh my goodness. And it rose a good bit in the oven. Now, I'm going to let it cool the whole way because it obviously just came out, so it's still very hot. But oh my goodness, is that not the prettiest loaf of bread you've ever seen? I am so excited. So I'll bring you guys along tomorrow morning when I cut it. Okay, it is the next afternoon. I did cut this guy and I had him as a midnight snack last night. But look at how beautiful. Where can I get you? Wow. Look at how beautiful he is. This is such a beautiful loaf, and I am so excited. He smells so good. Okay, but what I want to talk about, just for a quick second, I'm going to leave it out actually, is how I'm going to preserve that bread. So that's a big loaf of bread, and I honestly, obviously cannot eat a big loaf of bread by myself. If I ate a big loaf of bread by myself like that, as much as I cook bread, I would weigh a lot more than I do. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to cut that in half, and I'm going to put half in the freezer. Bread freezes extremely well. That's just a general rule. So I am assuming, and I'm going to go ahead with the assumption that this brioche will freeze extremely well as well. So that's how I'm going to move forward with it. However, I did have the thought, and I just don't have the time or the desire. I have to do my taxes tonight. Ugh, sounds terrible. Or else maybe I'd have the desire to. But you could turn all of that brioche right now into French toast and then freeze it as French toast and have a super quick and freezer ready breakfast meal in your freezer. So that's something you could also do with it, and I will probably do it in the future. I just don't feel like doing it right now. And brioche has a very short shelf life. Homemade breads in general have a short shelf life. And brioche is one of those ones that has a shorter shelf life. So I just want to get this in the freezer now. I don't want to waste the time trying to get it made into anything. But this would make a great French toast. This would make a really great stuffing. This would make a really great bread pudding. Oh, the options are endless. So I'm going to cut this puppy in half, and I'm going to just eat a couple of slices, today and tomorrow, and then the rest will be in the freezer for future meals. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you try this recipe. It was super easy, and for the first time go around, it was, I think, incredibly successful. I mean, I am super proud of that loaf of bread. I think that turned out, look at that. Oh, I think it turned out gorgeous. So I am so excited. So thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video. Who knows what we'll make next?